What do you got for us today?
Ready for goal setting? Most people hate goal setting when I bring it up.
Yeah.
I was one of them. So you guys said,
Actually,
did you
we
work
both
with
suck at it.
It's a target. So I like to think about goals as a target. This is my target. If I get here, I still accomplished all this. It doesn't mean it was worthless. There's different types of goals, right? So we have outcome goal. Maybe that's more of the win or the loss or the end of the season. And then we have process goals. What I'm going to do along the way to get there. A lot of times we only focus on outcome and not the process. Also, it's like run faster, score more. Well, okay, those are great, but like how do you do that, right?
Right.
So the first way to start is with SMART goals. So they have to be specific. So that's if you want to choose a particular part of your game, if it's individual, if it's as a team, we want to be as specific as we can. You guys have to be specific to your sport too, right? Is it our blocking? Is it our defense? Is it our serving game? Whatever that is, we want to be super specific. Then the next part has to be measurable.
Okay.
So this is where a lot of athletes go wrong because they think of measurable as outcome, a win or a loss.
Okay.
Or this stat. It doesn't always have to be stat based. Mm-hmm. It can be how much time. So does that mean we're going to spend 30 extra minutes a week working on our serve?
Okay, yeah.
Right? So it can be measurable in time or things like that. The next one is adjustable. This is where people get stuck in the goal setting of all or nothing.
Oh, that's
so like
right.
you can set a target and then pivot, I guess, a little bit.
Maybe something comes up where we get to have a scrimmage or a practice match against a great team. We're going to be off of our training plan. That's fine. That's worth it, right? We can adjust. Or injury happens. Or maybe we worked out really, really hard yesterday and we're super sore and we're not going to get the most out of today's practice if we do it a certain way. Adjust. It's okay. As long as we're still keeping track that it's for something, right? It's for that outcome. But when we get too strict with this and all of this, and when we get rigid like that, we won't be as effective. Next one is realistic, which also goes with the next one, which is being timely. So it has to be realistic for the time that we're gonna set, right? So we can't go 0 to 100 in 2 days.
Right.
And 7 days and 30-day player plans. Okay. All right? Because those are manageable timetables. All right? So it starts big though. So if we look at it like this, it starts big with outcome, and then maybe we're getting into 30 days. And then maybe 7 days. And that's how we start to funnel it to, hey, we're just looking at today. So you should have these, and that's why I like to look at it like this. They're markers. They're not end-all, be-all. They're just markers. And that's why we can adjust. Because if in 7 days I killed what I set out to do, then I can adjust my 30-day plan. To help with all of this and to make it specific is to think about, well, there's two components, right? Our mental game and our physical game. So if we're looking at just 7 days, I like to think about, well, what are 3 mental strategies or mental goals for the week, and what are 3 physical. This is my 7-day player plan. I'm gonna have my outcome goal for the week.
And is it just one goal, would you recommend, for a 7-day?
Yeah.
Just one?
We want to keep it intentional and focused. So what's one thing that maybe a volleyball player would want to accomplish in a week?
Awesome.
Yeah,
Cool.
I couldn't get that out of my head.
That's pretty broad, right? It doesn't necessarily fit this yet, right?
Yeah.
So now we're going to have 3 mental process goals that are going to help us reach this. So then these would be more of our plan for the week.
I see.
Does that make sense? So maybe one is I'm going to go through my imagery of passing for 5 minutes per day for the week. That's a mental process that I'm making sure it's specific, it's measurable, say I don't get time that day, that's okay, I can adjust it. I'm not saying it's at 5 o'clock every day.
Right.
I'm adjusting, it's realistic, I can give up 5 minutes, and my time is 7 days.
Can you give me another example of a mental process goal?
Other than visualization or imagery?
I'm coming up blank.
So these can be really simple when it comes to it. So I have one athlete who the goal was to actually sit down and put these somewhere visual, right? It's just a small action.
Yeah.
So small action or small change, big impact on your game. People, that's the biggest thing. People think, oh, I have to change my whole mindset. I have to change the way I do my goal setting. It's really small changes have big results.
Okay, so
Yep,
like
that
what
was
sort
a
of
good
things
one.
could they do with no prior knowledge of any mental processes?
Mental can even be part of your mental game of the sport.
Okay.
So maybe my mental game is watching 15 minutes of the best passing guys in the game.
Yeah.
From all
Watching
these-
film is a huge, huge mental piece that we forget. So the
Okay.
way that you learn how to do imagery is usually watching film.
Okay.
Now, an example, then you would also then do 3 physical. So what's one physical process goal you could make for passing?
Just like cut out 30 minutes every practice time. I don't
Yeah.
know, something
Right?
like
So it's specific, we can measure it, we're gonna dedicate 30 minutes. I'd even get more specific, how many times this week?
that. 3 times.
So 30 minutes, 3 times this week to work on that, right? That's
Yeah.
realistic, we can devote that much time during
Right.
practice, we know
Yeah.
it's in 7 days. And then on the worksheet, you write these out, put it somewhere you see it. A lot of times that's the biggest thing is with goals. Out of sight, out of mind. Alright? So
Gotcha.
that's why I like to look at these. We list them out, check, did it, done this week, right? If I didn't, then we want to keep track and maybe say why. Maybe it wasn't realistic. Maybe we didn't adjust wisely. Next week we need to adjust because we're also progressing towards that 30-day. And then progressing towards that outcome or season, the
Gotcha.
long-term goal. And one thing that a lot of people do is like, okay, I said it, and then they don't go back and reflect. You have to. So at the bottom of our worksheets, we have a 1 through 10 scale. How did I do this week? Did I even use them? Did I not?
Okay.
Because that's the only way we're going to keep kind of progressing is to give ourselves honest feedback.
Okay.
So the biggest thing is that can be a goal, but then it's also like how, right? So that's always the importance. So that's why we always do these 3 processes. So it's like, okay, maybe if our outcome goal for the week is to follow our schedule, then it's how. What are 3 mental ways and what are 3 physical
I
ways
see.
we're going to do that?
Oh, okay, so it's a
Does
bigger
that make
outcome.
sense? It's
Yes.
always about how are we going to do that, the action piece. Because otherwise, we're just setting intentions. And intentions are great, but they're just intentions till we act on them.
Gotcha.